I want to introduce to Maura Luxford, Right for a Cure. She will tell her whole story, what it's all about. But I know that she's a tireless community campaigner in education of Australians in prevention of skin cancers and melanoma. So here's Maura Luxford.
So my name's Maura Luxford. I'm from Kempsey on the mid-north coast of New South Wales, and I'm mother to 3 children, Hannah, Esther and Joseph. I'm an educator, a horsewoman, a change agent, and as of Wednesday this week on the 21st of November, I actually become in New South Wales Social Entrepreneur of the Year for the work that I've done in producing resources for adolescents and young adults around melanoma and skin cancer prevention and awareness. So I'm here to share a story with you. So this is my daughter Hannah here. We've got a farming and livestock background, and a couple of days before Christmas in 2007, Andrew Spillane from what was then the Sydney Melanoma Unit, and is now the Melanoma Institute of Australia, stood beside my 19-year-old daughter Hannah and said a few things to her at the time that seemed meaningful. He told her to tell all her friends to look after their skin. Andrew had no idea that those few simple words would have such a huge impact a year down the road. 3 years ago, I knew nothing about melanoma and young people. That's changed. Each of you here today has the capacity to make change happen in this nation around melanoma. And I invite you to do that by asking all the young people that you know in your lives to look after the skin they're in for life. So my family thought melanoma was rare. It's not. We thought it was an older person's disease. It's not. Our melanoma journey began on the 26th of November in 2007 after a phone call from our local doctor after a routine visit to the clinic. Hannah was told to be in the doctor's surgery the next morning at 8 a.m. and there was no opportunity to question or ask anything about that. She was summoned. So this is the real beginning of our journey, because the next morning we stepped out of home at 7 o'clock in the morning because we lived an hour out of town. What we learnt as we went into that doctor's surgery, and Hannah was told she had a stage 4 malignant melanoma diagnosis at age 19. We learnt the hard way, like Joe, that this disease is indiscriminate and insidious. When we entered Carmel's rooms, our lives changed forever. Hannah, in her beautiful wisdom, she simply said, "What do we need to do to get through this thing?" And so our journey began the next day. Hannah and I went to Sydney to the Melanoma Institute and also RPA, where her journey began. She had surgery to remove the melanoma and a sentinel node biopsy. We stayed in Sydney for about a month while she underwent a whole barrage of tests, and she was given the all clear just before Christmas time in 2007. She was given the all clear. This diagnosis, all clear dance, occurred 3 times in 12 months for Hannah, and out of that we became conditioned to expect the unexpected around it. During 2008, while Hannah lived with melanoma and moved between treatments, university, rodeos, falling in love, and taking a couple of holidays, she never said, "Why me?" She never blamed herself, got despondent, or actively rebelled against the notion of battling cancer. She actually didn't ascribe to that term at all. Her thing was around loving life every second of every day. And that bubbled to the surface and filled all of us with unshakable hope. And during 2008, Hannah had 2 hopes. One was to tell all her friends to look after the skin they're in. That became for me not just Hannah's friends but all young Australians. And the second was to raise money to find a cure. So Hannah, the last round of treatment she had was in Victoria at the Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre. We're very fortunate to have the esteemed Professor Grant MacArthur as her medical oncologist. He's an extraordinary human being. One of the sessions we had sitting around talking for hours on end with Grant was Hannah, who was a second year livestock science student, kept asking Grant all these questions, why this and why that, and always he said, because we don't have answers yet because we haven't got the funds to strategically research young people and melanoma. And Hannah turned to me and said, Mum, when we get through this thing, you and I are going to do something around raising money so Grant can find a cure. Quote. So Hannah died a year to the day after her initial diagnosis, and within 6 months of Hannah's death, I'd formulated a plan to bring her hopes to life. I created Ride for a Cure and set up the Hannah Rose Melanoma Research Fund that does strategically target adolescent and young adult melanoma through the Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre, and Grant MacArthur administers all the funds we've raised. Ride for a Cure became a vehicle to take the message on the road to put melanoma on the map. My motivation behind this was the fact that at no time in Hannah's short life had she ever had youth-friendly education relating directly to melanoma as a young person's disease, and most especially, and again, Joe, that this was something that could actually take a young person's life. From this premise, I created Melawatt, which is a youth-friendly multimedia presentation that directly raises awareness of UV radiation and melanoma. It unpacks the simple science behind UV exposure in the same way, teaching young people how to actually read those UV maps. When they hear someone on the radio say, oh, the UV today is whatever, that they actually know what that means. They understand that UV radiation and cell damage is cumulative. You cannot undo cell damage. It's a footprint that's there for life. We wear it till the day we die. Kids need to know this. They need to know that 80% of all cell damage that will happen in their life happens before they leave high school. That is an enormous duty of care for our Department of Education across the nation that sadly in high schools is invisible. There is no strategic strategy at all to educate young people in high schools or to enforce any kind of policy around appropriate clothing to wear to school and hat policies, etc., or making it easy for kids to get it right where they have access to sunscreen. The schools I go into, I suggest they put pump packs on the door so kids can apply sunscreen before they go out at lunchtime, etc. Anyway, I've used social media to promote Melawatt and all of the Ride for a Cure stuff, which has been incredible because we've got a whole truckload of followers on different social media sites. But when I first started this thing, I knew nothing about websites or anything, and I sat down and Googled how to start a website. And our Ride for a Cure website now has had over 560,000 hits on it, which is pretty awesome. But anyway, so the vehicle to get this message out across the country was long distance trekking. I did that because I'm totally insane. And the first trek, I'm a horsewoman, that's my background, but after I lost Hannah, I couldn't even walk into the horse paddock. I'd had, over a year, I had 5 months stuck in hospitals, which is totally outside my comfort zone, stuck in hospitals with Han while she's undergoing all of the different surgery, treatment, radiation, chemotherapy, you name it. And all I was dreaming about was getting back home to the farm and going out there with my horses. After I lost Hannah, I could not even walk through the gate into the horse paddock because every time all I thought of, I'm never going to ride a horse with Hannah again. So I couldn't ride a horse, but I could ride a bike. Not very well. But when I first got on the bike, I was stuffed after 10 kilometres. It was like, oh man. But I persisted because the thing about that was that it was like I was trying to outride my grief. I got on a bike and people were saying, you're like Forrest Gump, you got on it, never got off. And that's true. They'd see me ride and I was riding into town and out of town and off I'd go, and within a month or so I was riding like 100, 120, 150, 160, 170 kilometres a day. And then all this stuff started to go through my mind about Hannah's hopes, and I thought, oh, hang on, I'm an educator, I work with young people, why don't I put something together that will speak to young people on a bike? And that's how it all got cracking. So I'm a bit of a strategist, so I set up a whole plan around how the logistics of connecting with Department of Education and schools and booking them in. And a gazillion Rotary clubs. Rotary have been fantastic and really been supportive of what I've done. One of the other key things I've done on all of the 3 treks is connected with state and federal MPs. Every single electorate I've contacted that state or federal MP and talked to them about melanoma and young people and melanoma in general, and every single MP has responded in a really positive way. So I encourage you, anyone that's working as an advocate, definitely hammer your local MP. I'll just show you a few photos. I rode down the Pacific Highway to Sydney, but going into communities all the way along the road. Very hard. I was telling the great ladies that have got the sun protection gear out there, back in 2009 there was nothing, and I had to get these shirts from to get them so they had a sun protection factor of 50. Had to get them from a mining company in WA, and that contraption on my head was called my bike burqa, because that bike is, as I kept saying to all these cyclists, you know, man, you've got nothing that protects your head from UV. The big cracks in the top of the helmet, so I had this special wrap thing over my hair and then that on. Everywhere we went, like on that first trek, I raised about 45 grand. And we've done now, in total, we've actually raised over 115,000 bucks now for our research fund. This photo I use for kids, and I say to them, you know, what around the UV, you know, cloudy, wet, cold days, I say, what do you think the UV is today? You know, do you think it's safe to go out in the sun without sunscreen? They always say yes. And, you know, on this day, the UV was actually 14. So that's our little rig. That's my son, Joe. Yeah. So just a lot of miles and a lot of country. Yeah. That's at Peter Mac in Melbourne, so I rode all the way down there, and it was just awesome. The lady on the left with the wrap on her head is my cousin, Maria Pollard, and she had just about to get the all clear. She was actually treated at the Gawler Foundation, and she had a very serious ovarian cancer diagnosis, and she's still alive now. So a bit of a plug for you guys. That's my daughter Esther, who's now 22, and that is Grant MacArthur, the hero genius god of melanoma. So, at the end of while I was on the bike ride, a thing happened to me. As I'm riding along, I was getting schools, did a lot of radio interviews, and I started to get a lot of schools from inland ringing me up saying, when are you going to come out west to the Riverina? And in my mind, that was the one and only trek I was ever going to do. So then I started to think, I knew in the riding of that trek that I was going to be right when I got home to ride horses again. So I crazily planned a solo pack horse ride, which 1,860 kilometres over 86 days over the Great Dividing Range, into the New England, down through the Riverina, down the Murray River into the Goulburn Valley, out into Western Victoria, and swung right around down through Kerrang and Boort and Charlton and back through to Bendigo and into Melbourne. I am insane, everyone. That's day one. We had about 40 horsemen and women ride from Willawarren to Bellbrook, and we had a big fundraiser in the Willawarren Hotel there the night before we left, we had 30 or 40 horsemen and women gather with us, and we rode 25 kilometres together from pub to pub, barbecue to barbecue, and it was just amazing. But that's I did not have a support crew on this ride. It was me and my pack horses, because because I was going to be on the road for so long, it was like organising people to be away from their work. And I thought, I'll be right. You know, I've done a lot of driving in my day. You know, I've worked in the bush a lot, and I was, but it was just such a lot of hard work, let me tell you. This is Mellawat in the schools. I've been to over 150 schools across the nation now, and just telling this story to the kids and unpacking the science. Oh my God. That is I can't tell you how cold that is, but that's me in the Riverina. That's at Tamworth going down the Moonbi Ranges, which is extreme, let me say. You can see there by the steep descent. That's our Deputy Premier, and he's a big fan of Mellawat, let me say. He's awesome, and he's also our local member for Oxley. Raising money, man. What I haven't done to raise money. Cattle sales, horse sales, ram sales, lamb sales. You know, I've had 5 dinner dates. And in the bush, you know, all of my fundraising's happened in the bush. It hasn't, you know, so I've been... but this cattle sale was amazing, because all of the meat buyers, sorry, all the vegans and vegetarians here, but all the meat buyers come in, and we had about 50 of those vests, and around that's the sale ring for the cattle sale. They all had a vest on. It was just, I just wanted to cry. That was just so good. Yeah. So I nearly died there, guys. That's at Golgong, out the back of Golgong, -6 degrees. I was telling someone, you can see my horses there with their nice warm rugs. I'm in my little tent like this at 1 o'clock in the morning going, I'm not going to get to Melbourne, I'm going to die from... But, and I went out, you can see my horses tethered up there. Now, I didn't camp out every night, just when I couldn't sponge it somewhere to live, But in that little tent, ice everywhere. And I went out at 1 o'clock in the morning. I thought, I'm going to steal one of my horses' rugs off their backs and put it on mine. But I went out and they're like trembling with the cold, so I had to leave them alone. And rode, that's my son. He rode the last day into the city with me. And again, there was Grant. Every step of the way that fella's been there supporting what we're doing, because he knows one of the key things we have to do is connect and engage young people so that they can be proactive for life. This is not something you do just in this. This is a change of attitude and a change of culture around being responsible for the skin we're in. So in sharing the story, Hannah's story, and wrapped around that simple science of Malawatt, I know from the feedback I've had of thousands and thousands of young people that this story sticks. The day that I rode into Melbourne, my daughter Esther, who was only 20 then, she said to me, Mum, next year we'll do a pack horse ride across the country together. I said, sorry, I'm going to swear, no bloody way. I said, you ride and I'll take the truck. So we organised all the logistics around this ride, and the 2nd of May is a really significant day for us because that would have been Hannah's 23rd birthday, and the 6th of August was to be Esther's 21st birthday. So Esther, a dilemma for her was getting older than her older sister, and that was devastating, like for anyone who's lost an older sibling, like to get older. So Esther, it was timely for her to do something significant like this where she could directly, have an imprint. So this is day one. Esther's dream was to ride from the Pacific Ocean at Crescent Head, 4,600 kilometres across the country. And we cannot look at a weather map now without, oh my God, we've ridden across there. So that's at Crescent Head and that's our truck, which we had to carry everything in and on that. So again, along the way, pretty much the same across the Great Dividing Range and into New England. Amazing country. You can see the map on the back of our truck there. Went to over 50 schools, a heap of Rotary Club dinners, and just putting melanoma on the map, speaking with communities, sporting groups, farming groups. I used to do a lot of droving and mustering out there back in the 80s. The kids, wherever kids want to know about this, and one of my goals from an education point of view is in 2014, guys, we get a new national curriculum, and at the moment is to actually get curriculum writers on board to have an impact on the PDHD, which is a physical health and development aspect of that, and schools are screaming out for it. So this was, I don't know, you guys are... Again, whose little mugshot shows up in Perth on the last day? Grant MacArthur said out the front of Peter Mac the day I rode in on the packhorse ride, he said to Esther, you ride to Perth, baby, I'm going to be there to see you ride in, and he was. But we also had hundreds of people that we met along the way that were on journeys, and they redesigned their holiday trips so that they were at Cottesloe Beach on the 6th of August to see Esther ride in. Some of our major sponsors from the East Coast, they flew across to be there as well. It was just... Clinton Heal, who from Melanoma WA, he was there on the last day as well to meet us, so that was fantastic. The trek ended, but the work continues. One of the things I've created an e-learning resource that goes live at the March Against Melanoma on the 3rd of the 13th in Melbourne. And that'll make Malawatt accessible to every young person across the country. So in any school, doesn't matter how rural or remote they are, they'll have access to this information that just might, they might pick up that one thing that'll help them. Okay, I'll stop at that because I've probably gone way over time. But one of the really key things with the Malawatt e-learning resource is I've got a group of young people that go to the same school that all of my kids have gone to, and they're musos, and they've got a band called the Syndicators, and I gave them a challenge. I talked to them about the content that I had wrapped around Malawatt e-learning, and I said what'd be really cool was if you guys, because they've played at a heap of our fundraiser gigs, I said, and Simon Robinson is a pretty cool songwriter, I said, here's a bit of a brief about kind of the words I'd like in a song. Do you reckon you could write me a song? And he said, I'll have a crack. And I'm going to play you. This song that they've written has been shortlisted for the Australian Songwriter of the Year 2012 youth category. So hit it, Dave. So these are all local Kempsey kids.
Day I went to the beach, no sunscreen on my back, cause I couldn't reach. I was out there for hours, lying in the sand, soaking up the sun and working on my tan. It never occurred to me that the sun could be my enemy now. I'm sorry that I didn't slip some slack, cause there's a great big melanoma lurking on my back. Melanoma, don't wanna know you. Mama said something about getting burnt till you flaked and bread. Now I know what she was talking about, but I had to admit I had my doubts, cause it never occurred to me that I was blind, but now I can see it. Turns out that my mama was right, and against melanoma I'm gonna fight. Melanoma, don't wanna know you. Can you tell me what's going on?
Thanks a lot, guys.